and this is episode 7.
Do the decisions and actions I make now really affect my future? Just the explanation of the human race. We do what we don't want to do, and what we want to do, we don't do.
What does the future look like? What do I want it to look like?
I think I find it difficult, not because I don't want to know what the future is. It's actually fear. It's actually avoidance of, I don't want to see too far into the future, thank you very much, because I might not like what I see.
Ultimately, without that vision, without that picture of the future, our hope in the now diminishes. It perishes. Welcome back to the Winning Life podcast. My name is Gareth Morgan.
I'm Leanne Morgan.
And this is episode 7.
Episode 7 already.
Start of a new week.
New week. If you're watching this as they're being released, this will be Monday morning, very early.
So happy Monday, everyone. Start of a new week, a fresh canvas to paint upon.
Absolutely. Something fresh and new and good questions, hopefully, for you to answer and look at this week.
Yeah, and I think the question that we're looking at right at the start of this week is actually really good for a Monday.
Yes, it absolutely is. Shall I reveal the question?
Go for it.
I mean, they will know already because it will be on the description.
Yeah.
But, let's just assume nobody knows what the question is. And the question is, do the decisions and actions I make now really affect my future? And of course, as with all the questions, you can answer a straight up yes or no and switch off. But we want to talk and unpack a little bit more about, well, of course they do, but how do they affect our future? How important are they?
Yeah, and it's a great question because there are things that can influence us in our decision making that stop us making great choices. And I think this question leads us to a clue and a key as to how we can, in the moment, make far better choices and choices that are going to create an even greater future.
Yeah.
And so that, of course, the Winning Life is about unlocking that potential that God has placed inside of you and of me. It's our responsibility, actually, isn't it? It's not even just about creating a nice lifestyle. It's actually something we've been given this life.
Yep, absolutely. It's our responsibility to do our best with it. And the fact is, we make decisions and actions every moment of every day, sometimes without even realizing, the decision to go to like the kitchen and get a drink, or the decision to sit in a certain chair, right through to, and the actions that we do with that, right through to the really big, important actions and decisions that we make. But so our brain is constantly, and our mind is constantly, assessing and evaluating the situation. Do I do this or that? Do I go there? Do I have a tuna sandwich or a cheese sandwich for lunch? Do I talk to that person or do I not? Do I sit next to them on the bus or do I go to a different seat? Do I buy that item of clothing? Do I not? They're the simple things, but it's constant. It's every day. Even right now, subconsciously, I'm making decisions about the actions that I'm going to take or the conversation that we're going to have. So our mind is an incredibly powerful thing. And so that decision making has to be thought about. Yeah, and planned.
And that's why we wanted to release this podcast, 3 times a week currently. And we wanted to find ways of keeping the conversation going because actually, like Leanne said, 90% of our choices each day are driven by our subconscious. In other words, by what the Bible calls our heart. Okay, so it's the heart that is driving everything. And so there are 10%, and of course that's a percentage just to kind of communicate I guess the bias that our choices have each day, that actually our subconscious is driving the majority of our lives. And we've got, if we're happy with that, then we'll just settle into that. We're just like, well, I'm on this journey, where I end up is where I end up. But I know that those that are listening, you're not like that. You want to find ways of becoming the best that you can, of honoring God, honoring, those that have sacrificed for you, parents, loved ones, teachers, colleagues, whatever. You want to bring your best. And so we've somehow got to find, how can I unlock that 90%? Like, am I happy with what is in that 90% and steering me? The analogy, Leanne, that comes to mind is, and I've talked about this before on numerous occasions when I've been speaking, is of when I was a little boy and my dad used to let me sit on his lap and to drive the car in inverted commas.
Oh yeah, my dad used to let me do that too.
Wow, good dads.
You know, I saw the other day a dog doing that. Sitting on someone's knee while they were driving the car.
Wow.
Literally, I looked and I was like, there's a dog sat on someone's lap driving the car.
Is it me? Again, slight diversion, but is it me, or have we become a nation or even a world, dare I say, that the importance and the rise of dogs has just gone to a whole nother level? I mean, I don't know, we've always loved dogs. Dogs have always been a man's best friend. But in reality, you know, now, I mean, I went to, this really is, we're going off
completely off the subject.
I was going to say rabbit trail, we're going off on a dog trail. I was in a place in London the other day, and it was a place where you can go and it's like a kind of a communal workspace. And one of the USPs of this communal workspace is, and bear in mind, people who go there could be traveling, you know, an hour on a train to get to London to work there, or they could be local. But one of the USPs was you can bring your dog.
USB.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, USB, not
I was
USB.
I'd like to plug in a USB.
Yeah, you can plug your dog in. Here, charge him up. I'm sure that will be in the future. Robotic dogs as well. But yeah, you can bring your dog, and there were literally little dogs sat there and, you know, everywhere. You know,
it's because I think, particularly in cities like that, people are probably lonely, and so they have a pet. They have a dog too.
I think it's because people are starting to choose dogs over children.
That is also true. I mean, I don't want to comment on what's more will work or which one is harder. But yeah, no, it's true. I think there is definitely, and I think the lockdowns actually increased people's buying of pets.
That's key.
You know, they were at home, they wanted something or someone to focus on, particularly people who were by themselves. I think that's been a big, I mean, even now our son has been nagging for a dog for so long, but somebody won't let us have one.
Anyway, we must stay focused on the conversation of what we're talking about.
So I saw the dog sitting on the lap of this person driving the car, but the analogy was you on your dad's
I was sat,
lap.
not my dog, and I wasn't sat on a dog, I was sat on my dad.
And not recently
either.
Yeah,
Definitely not recently. I was a little boy, and of course, you know, I was, you know, this amazing moment where I thought I was in control of the car. Of course, we were in some kind of car park, private land. And he had his feet on the pedals. He had his hand on the gear stick. He even had his hand on the underside of the wheel. So in reality, he was in full control. But I thought I was in control. I thought I was driving the car. And to me, that picture is a bit like, you know, the little Gareth is like our conscious mind, and my dad is like the subconscious mind. In reality, the subconscious mind is driving it. And what we're looking at today is an absolute essential piece of how do I'm going to use the word reprogram, you know, our subconscious. The Apostle Paul in Romans 12 verse 2 talks about not being conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, again, you know, pattern, that is, again, it's literally like wiring.
Yeah.
It's something that if you don't alter the pattern in the subconscious, then it's like those are the tracks that you will run along. And that's why we will repeatedly do the things that we don't want to do. Again, the Apostle Paul talks about in Romans 7, he talk about, you know, the things that I want to do, I don't do, and the things that I hate to do, I keep on doing.
I love those verses. It's a bit of a tongue twister if you read it.
Oh, it is.
But that whole explanation is just the explanation of the human race. We do what we don't want to do, and what we want to do, we don't do. And we get ourselves caught in that cycle. Why don't I do what I want to do?
It's a loop, isn't it? It is quite literally like being stuck on a loop. And the Apostle Paul, who wrote kind of a good third of the New Testament, he spoke about, you know, this pattern and being transformed, but by the renewing of your mind. In other words, the mind, he's talking about the fullness of the mind, and we need our minds to be renewed. And one way in which they're renewed is what we immerse ourselves in. Yeah. And so, you know, we're going to pick one part of that renewal process, and it is about vision. Yeah. It's about the future. When we look at the fact that we have been given, and talking about creatures, as much as dogs are great, you know, and other creatures can be pretty clever and can do some amazing things. You know, my Instagram feed is full of dogs doing these amazing feats and, incredible
things.
Because
our kids are on your Instagram all the time, so the algorithm
they've affected my algorithm. I think they're purposely doing that to try and get me to get a dog. But the human is the only species that has an imagination. Every other creature doesn't have an imagination. That creature, the dog, the elephant, the giraffe, whatever, they have a set pattern that they are kind of locked into. But as human beings, we can create.
Yeah. We
can innovate. And of course, the reason why we can do that is because that was all part of God's plan for our life.
We're made in his image.
We're made in his image, the creator. And so actually, if we're going to take responsibility for our lives, if we see ourselves as stewards, then actually this whole thing of cultivating vision, of starting to get a picture, what does the future look like? What do I want it to look like? So kind of starting with this far off point, it's quite challenging. And I know out of the two of us, and we've already talked about this so far on this podcast, you are more than now, I'm more than not yet. So Absolutely. This one for you is, whereas others will be more difficult for me, but for you, you find this particularly difficult. And people will be listening right now who also thinking, I haven't got the foggiest 10 years, 5 years from now.
10 days.
So help people understand why it is you find that difficult, but also why this is really important for us to kind of push through that.
I think I find it difficult, not because I don't want to know what the future is, because actually I enjoy planning. Like I've said on lots of occasions, you've called me in the past a systematic person. So I like things to be in systems. I like order. I don't like chaos. I'm not very good kind of without a plan, particularly when it comes to even simple things like going shopping. I mean, food shopping now, more than ever with the cost of living crisis, we have to have a plan. And obviously budgets and things like that. I enjoy that and I see the reason behind that. But when it's looking forward more than just that, it's actually fear. It's actually avoidance of, I don't want to see too far into the future, thank you very much, because I might not like what I see, or what if I plan but it doesn't work out, or, for some of us, you particularly, if I was to give you a blank sheet of paper, you love blue sky thinking, you love that, let's just put anything down, where it could take us. You're a creative mind. I'm much more of a naturally let me get my hands dirty kind of person. Not that you're not, you absolutely do, but you know what I mean in the sense of there's people who just like the blue sky, there's some who just want to get on with what that tells us to do. So I like to put legs on things. So if you were to say to me, this is the goal, we are now got to work for it, great. It's the imagination, it's the vision part that pulls me out of my comfort zone, and yet I totally know the purpose and the point behind that, and I know that when I have that in place, that actually drives me better. It just goes against my natural kind of way of looking at things. So it is often fear, though. I don't want to look too far into the future.
That's really good.
It's easy
That's really
to
helpful.
Stay in the now.
Yeah, and I think so many people will identify with that. And again, we've already talked about the fact that you just having the ability to, or even the desire to, kind of do some blue sky thinking on its own isn't good enough, because you can create a great wish of the future, but a wish is different to a dream. It's different to a vision. And you need therefore that systematic action plan. What is it I need to go to work on to bring that about? So, you need that now and the not yet. But the reason why we're, again, looking at this question now is because a number of times throughout the previous episodes, we've talked about the MVP plan, to be that most valuable player, to unlock the value that God's placed in you, to serve your highest and best contribution to the world and to those around you. We need a plan. But a plan, ultimately, you start from the end and then you work backwards. Start with the end in mind. I think it was Stephen Covey who kind of spoke about that, but in reality, it's a truth that you'll find right throughout the Bible, that ultimately, without that vision, without that picture of the future, our hope in the now diminishes, it perishes, it dies. We become hopeless when we don't have that future picture.
Sorry to interrupt, but just to let you know that in every episode, Gareth and Leanne will be talking about the importance of getting a plan for your personal and professional life. That's why they've developed the MVP plan. When you develop your MVP plan, surprising opportunities and uncommon results follow. Visit thewinninglife.tv today to get access to your plan and the steps on how to use it. Let's head right back over to their episode.
So, for those that are watching on YouTube right now, I'll just show you what that plan looks like. If you're listening to this, then you can go and download at the website www.thewinninglife.tv. Subscribe to the newsletter and you'll be able to download this plan for free. It's our gift to you.
The links are in all the descriptions and content of everything.
That's right. So we've made it really easy for you to access.
You literally have to click it.
All you have to do is click it. And so, we've got the plan here, and at the very start of the plan, at the very first line, it says, my future goal by the year 20, and then there's a blank. This is what I want my life to look like. So we've left it blank because, of course, I'm encouraging people, depending on age, and I'm encouraging people to push as far into the future as you can. And of course, the further into the future you go, sometimes the less specific you feel you can be, but really it's about creating a picture that excites you.
Yeah.
It's about creating a picture that you're thinking, do you know what? That is what I want. That's what I want for my family. That's what I want for my community. And in the book, The Winning Conversation, The Winning Keys, we talk about legacy. So this is not even just about a future that I am going to get to enjoy, but actually what is going to be left for those behind me. And again, I don't want to be morbid on a Monday morning, but actually, in
it's
reality,
actually a really, really important question. It's, when you're a teenager and growing up, you don't think about your future, do you? Really? I mean, it's drummed into you at school, what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but they're just talking about academics. We don't think about 20, 30 years time. My oldest daughter, Erin, who's 20 now, which even that freaks me out because ridiculous. I feel like I'm 20.
That's how fast time's going.
She just jokingly said to me, how does it feel to be, I'm going to say my age now, 43? And I laughed. And I said, well, what do you mean? She's like, what does it feel like to be 43? And I thought, you know what? I feel no different. I mean, physically, I feel a bit older, but I don't feel any different to when I was 20. And my point is, life is very, very it goes very, very quick. It is long. When I think 20 years ago, I mean, we got married 23 years ago nearly. That's gone very fast, but a lot has happened in that time. But it's true, life goes by very quickly. And if we're not careful, we can just drift through without a plan, without a dream, without a vision. Or we have a dream and a vision, but we just don't know how to put legs on it. Or someone can dissuade us and go, oh, you'll never do that. So you just park it. Or you can go to be 60, 70, 80 years of age and think, well, that's it now, I'm done. Which also isn't true, because while you have breath in your lungs, there is a purpose. Absolutely. There is a plan, and that doesn't change. But we have a responsibility to outwork that and make sure that there is a plan that is created out of it. It's a bit like when I do go food shopping without a list, without a plan. And I remember I did that for so long. I would go food shopping, walk into the supermarket, and we would have a budget. You have only a limited amount of money to spend on food. Now it's less than ever.
Doesn't go quite as far.
No, it doesn't go quite as far. And if I don't go with a plan or a list, I'll go with what I feel like in the moment. Now, the worst thing to do is go shopping, and we've heard this before, I'm sure, go shopping on an empty stomach. I will go and make the wrong choices. I will pick up chocolate. I will pick up quick snacks. I will pick up the ready meal that I can just pop in the microwave and it's done. I'll pick up I will not pick anything that is of any value to me nutritionally or anything that's going to feed my family for the week. And also, I don't know how much that's going to cost. I've not counted the cost. And I will get to the till and go, oh my word, I've got nothing I can make any decent meals with, but I've spent so much money. So I learned very quickly how to plan meals, know what I needed, and go and get those things. It didn't mean I couldn't allow myself to get other things if I wanted to, but as long as I got that first. Now, that's a very simple analogy.
No, it's good.
But that's actually how our lives should be. What do I need for this week?
Yeah.
What do I need for my life? If
Yeah.
we're looking about meals, I'm going to have this, and this. There's going to be that many people. I need these ingredients. And so do I have that in my cupboard? Yes. Well, I don't need more. Or yes, I do. And so you start to build a plan, a budget, and essentially your list. It will determine the cost, the energy, the time that you spend there, and limit the choice. So yeah, and it's important to see that in one sense, life is like that big supermarket. There is everything on offer.
Yeah.
Some things are good for you, some are not. Some other people will need, some things you will need, and it's so important to make that choice.
I think what you just said there, and this is what a plan does, it limits you. Now, you're thinking, oh, that's a bad thing, surely. Well, no, because the problem is when we don't limit ourselves, then everything becomes possible. You know, and as we know, it says in the Bible, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial.
Yeah.
So multiple options are not always great, because you can be more likely to make the wrong choice and wrong decision. And I think when you're in when you're in the Western world and there is an abundance of options, the challenge can come in, you can therefore almost just consume your way through life and not really have anything to show for it. Whereas actually, so to limit that, a vision, a plan limits it. It says, no, this is what the future is going to look like. Therefore, as you said, Leanne, you know, these are the things that I need. These are the things I don't need. You know, a vision almost makes your mind up for you. You know, it makes up, well, if my vision, the picture of me by the year 20, you know, let's use a 30-year goal for us. So that's, I think we said 75, 74?
Yep.
Or 74, 73.
We're coming up
for, yeah.
Don't
we're kind
make me older than I am.
Yeah, okay, well, let's go for 74, 73. And so, you know, by the time I'm 74, let's look at health. You know, I want to have energy for my grandchildren, or great-grandchildren be around by then? Well, let's just
Depends
say
on our kids, doesn't it, and their plan.
Of course, it depends. Well, I've got a plan for them, so they're going to have kids.
Arranged marriages.
Yeah. But I want to have energy. So again, that limits my choice. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like exercising. Actually, when I go to my vision has already made my mind up. Gareth, you're going to be going to the gym because your vision is saying you don't have an option if that is the future that you want. Yeah. And again, the more compelling that future picture is, the more that picture means to you. And again, we talk about in the Winning Keys, the Winning Conversation, legacy. So this is going even further into the future. And in the book, The Winning Motivation, I kind of ask this question. It's the kind of question that very few people ask. But I encourage you to ask yourself it. You know, 500 years from now. So we were just talking about 30 years. But
wow, I definitely won't be around then.
We definitely won't be around. And that's why I asked the question, 500 years from now, in what way would the world be thankful or grateful that you were alive? You know, whilst they may not have heard of Gareth and Leanne in 500 years' time, actually, we all contribute something, or we take something away even from this world. And in what way would we have shaped it?
Yeah, I think if we ask ourselves that question, which we should, it would literally alter almost every decision we made. Because then you realise your life is never just about you.
Yes.
Even if you don't have children.
Yep.
This isn't about natural kids. I mean, it absolutely is
it
about that,
but it's not exclusive.
It's not just about that. So if you haven't got children, if you've chosen not to, whatever, it's not just about your natural family, what you're passing on, like some inheritance. Like you said, it's when you're gone, because that's one sure thing for every human being, that we all die at some point. What is being left behind? Because your life does matter. But what's sad is I find time and time again that I come across people who sell out that right at the start for something very small. like, actually, I just wanted to do this, or I just felt like this in the moment. That decision or action that could affect generations, not just their lives. I've been reading the story recently in the Bible, in Genesis, of Jacob and Esau. And, you know, the brothers, and you can go and read this for yourself, brilliant story. Jacob was born very jealous of Esau, who was the firstborn and had what they would have essentially in those times, the birthright, which meant that you had the blessing, you had the inheritance, it was kind of your line of children was where the blessing would come. But Esau, I haven't got time to go into it all now, he was hungry. And so he said to Jacob, well, make me some soup. And Jacob said, I'll make you soup if you give me your birthright. And because he was starving, so he had a physical need.
Yep.
Because he was starving, he gave him his birthright. And essentially Jacob became the one who received the blessing, the inheritance. He sold it for a bowl of soup. But he wasn't thinking in that moment, the decision, the action of how it would affect his future. And so by selling that over now, obviously we read about Jacob and the whole line of descendants of the Bible that come from him.
It shaped history.
Because it should have been Esau's line.
I knew soup's not good. I knew soup is...
I love a bit of vegetable soup. I think it's actually lentil soup the Bible talks about.
Well, definitely. Lentil soup should be banned.
But you see how just, you know, it's a true story.
Yeah.
But we can apply that to our lives. In that moment, I made a wrong decision because I just felt tired, or I felt hungry, or I felt weak, or I felt distracted.
Yeah.
And we throw away our future, or we set it on a different course because of one or a series of wrong actions. And
I think that's a really important point. You know, again, there's a saying, isn't there? Don't make a permanent decision in a temporary situation. In other words, the temporary, and it's usually related to something that's highly emotive. Yeah. You know, so it could be a physical feeling, hunger. It could be an emotional feeling, you know, how I feel about someone or something. And I can make a decision based upon emotion, and any decision based upon emotion is more often than not going to lead to regret. It's allowing the now to rule the not yet. Yeah. And it has to be the other way around. It's the not yet needs to rule the now. Yeah. And that's where, if you don't have a vision, if you don't ask the question, again, and we're not telling you how far into the future you have to think, you know, that's for you to have. This is an exercise to get you to think. But if we don't have a not yet that is placing a demand on the now, then more often than not, the unruly soul, the unruly emotion is going to take us to places, to people, to things that are ultimately going to potentially destroy what is important in our lives, rob us of opportunity. Yeah. So having that vision, and again, we talked about at the top of the podcast that the subconscious mind needs to keep seeing that picture. Yeah. You know, you need to keep putting that picture before you. I think it's Hebrews 12 where it says, for the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross. In other words, it's amazing what you can go through. And obviously we'll never have to go through what he went through because only he could do it. But it's amazing what you can go through and you can endure when you put the joy before you. Yeah. And that joy is that picture. It is a picture of a future that it ignites you, that lights up, you know, everything internally. And again, it's a good thing we're talking about this on a Monday. And if you're listening to this and I don't know what the weather's like, it could be bright and sunny, or it could be, if you're in the UK, probably more often than not.
Probably a bit grey.
But a bit grey. But, you know, and the external can dominate us. How you're feeling about this week can dominate you. How you're feeling about your job today, or people that you've got to meet, or that conversation that you've got to have, or what's happening with your children, or your finances. You know, all these things can really rule us in the now and affect our emotions. But a vision is actually saying, no, this is where I'm going. Yeah. This is where I believe we're going to end up. And this is, and again, we'll talk more about the why behind that, because that's an important part. But today, as we come into land, you know, start to ask yourself the question, you know, by this date, however far in the future you want to go, this is what I want my family to look like.
Yeah.
This is what I want my finances to look like, my health. These are the people that I want to impact and influence. This is the change that I want to see in the world. This, and again, we're Christians, we believe in an eternity and, legacy. Leanne, what does legacy stand for when we talk about that in the Winning Keys and Conversation?
Yeah, you very cleverly and helpfully put it as legacy is let eternity guide all the choices you make. And that really helps, because then when you're thinking about eternity, and some people think about eternity in terms of heaven, like we're just going to sit on a fluffy cloud forever, which I'm not up for that. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous.
Neither fluffy.
But eternity is far greater than that. And what we do now does count towards that. It shapes it. And, life is a very small, tiny part when you think about it. And so it has to let eternity guide all the choices that we're making right now. Let's not sell it for a bowl of soup.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Let the ultimate, as we talk about in the book, let the ultimate shape the immediate. But just visiting it once a year is not enough.
No.
Visiting it once a week is not enough. Just to my right, on the back of my door, I've got a vision board. Again, we'll talk maybe about some of the practical ways that you can do this. And again, as part of the MVP program and plan, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're going to be working alongside you to do, because we need help with this. We need accountability. We need an environment, a community, an immersion that is going to really start to shift this in us. This is so important. It is eternity shaping, life shaping, and we're committed to serving you wherever you are. There is more in you than you think, and I really hope that you've enjoyed our conversation, and we look forward to the next one, and we'll keep going on this journey. And until next time, from me, Gareth, it's goodbye.
See you soon.
We hope that you enjoyed that episode. And if you enjoyed it, please go and subscribe over on all of our channels on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and not forgetting your favorite podcast platform. And if you head over to thewinninglife.tv, you'll be able to find all the resources available to you. Gareth has written several books which will help you on your discovery to building stronger and better lives. Come and join us for the next episode.